Hello and welcome, my friends and viewers, to this week's episode of Legendlore, where I draw pictures of monsters, characters, gods, and other things from D&D 5th edition, while giving a small but quickly digestible history about them. Together we'll go over their origins within the game, how they're utilized in the modern edition, and how I like to utilize them in my own games. This video we're going to be going over a monster who brews such paranoia in players that it almost rivals that of the infamous mimic, the Intellect Devourer. The horror that is the Intellect Devourer first appeared way back in the first edition of D&D, specifically in Gary Gygax's original monster manual. Appearing as a dog-sized brain with long membranous paws and hind legs, these aberrations are created by powerful illithids who feed on intellect and the innate psychic energy found in all beings. They are also capable of understanding the language of deep speech, can communicate telepathically, and in addition to having blind sight, are capable of detecting sentience, which means they can sense the presence and location of any creature within 300 feet so long as it has an intelligence of 3 or higher. This completely nullifies such abilities like invisibility, wild shape, seeming, or alter self, and physical barriers are unable to block this detection. The only thing that can truly defend against it is a cast of the Mind Blank spell. Intellect Devourers are capable of consuming an entire brain as well as the memories of their prey before shrinking itself down and seeding itself inside of the victim's head, utilizing it as a new host. It would then use its host body to lure others into the territories of its Mind Flayer creator, capable of perfectly mimicking the host's original personality depending on how much of the creature's mind and memories it had eaten before its death. Once it has planted itself in the head of the victim, an Intellect Devourer could only be removed by the cast of the spell Protection from Evil and Good. However, this process can often kill the host unless the original brain is restored by some form of healing magic within seconds. Alternatively, a wish spell could possibly restore the brain of the host, forcing the creature out of the body, but the efficacy of that is questionable depending on the caster. Intellect Devourers are created by an illithid subjecting the brain of a creature to either an alchemical experiment, psionic manipulation, or a magical ritual in which the brain sprouts legs. During this process, the Devourer passes through a larval form known as an Ustilagore before reaching its final adult form. And in some places, the Ustilagore is considered a rare delicacy, sometimes pickled and seasoned with fungi native to the Underdark, or even the Far Realm. In my games, I don't just relegate the Intellect Devourer to one traditional form, as the brains used to create them can come from a variety of different races. The brains of Driders and Ettercats, for example, sprout spider legs instead of the traditional quadruped. Troll brains or giant brains are really large and tanky but slow, and so on and so forth. This lends an additional bit of surprise for when my players encounter an Intellect Devourer, thinking it'll be the size of a football only to realize that the creature only took that shape to fit within the subject's head, its true size being much more terrifying. I'd have them hopping off the walls, charging players directly like a wild rhinoceros. It can get pretty hectic to have a giant-sized brain crawl out of a goblin skull, but we dungeon masters have to have fun somehow. I also keep with the tradition of having Intellect Devourers being spies for their illithid masters, infiltrating the skull of an NPC that the party has befriended or intends to meet down the line, allowing them to provide false information. This can set them down the path for an ambush, and if I'm feeling particularly mean, I'll have the Devourer follow close behind the party, waiting for the right time to spook a player in the middle of the night. Players who turn invisible to try and sneak into enemy layers are also in for a rude awakening, as an Intellect Devourer watchdog is immediately keyed into the presence of an unfamiliar creature's intelligence, capable of silently warning their allies for the intruder around the corner. In terms of magic items or loot that can be taken from these creatures, larvae forms of the Intellect Devourer are considered delicacies within the Underdark cultures, so finding a small brood can fetch a good price in the world below. There's also a special homebrew item that I love to include called the Brain Stem, made from a calcified and repurposed Intellect Devourer brain on top of a rod, usually made from the bones of its legs. Once per short rest, the wielder may activate the rod as a bonus action, causing its next attack to deal an additional 2d10 psychic damage, and the target must also make a DC 12 intelligence check. On a failure, they are stunned for 1 round, and I've included the item stat block in the description. The Intellect Devourer is one of the perfect monsters to pair with a Mind Flayer. Useful as both spies and watchdogs for their masters, they can go undetected for weeks to months, and thusly acting as a perfect pipeline of misinformation for your players, as well as keeping tracks of their movements for their campaign's main villain. I want to thank all of you guys for watching, and if you want to keep updated on the next Legendlore, please subscribe to the channel, press the bell icon in the corner to be notified, and follow me on social media for progress on each art piece. Also, please comment down below what you use the Intellect Devourer for, how you've had him encounter your players, and please let me know in the comments below what other kind of D&D characters you would like to see. Until then, I'll see you guys next time.